trying to give you the best show possible every day. Sabrina Salas Mantanani on leave. Jason Salas.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, my friend. Let's head into the KUAF News Zoom room where they're fresh off a meeting last night. We have the Executive Director of the Guam Ethics Commission, Mr. Jesse Kenga. Good morning, Jess.
Alpade, good morning, Chris, and good morning, Jason.
Good morning. Buenas.
Feeling that shirt, bro?
Thank you. I feel yours too. If it comes in my size, I think I want to get one.
Old Navy, $9. Boom. What? Yeah, but Jason has one exactly like it.
Yeah, actually, on several occasions, Chris and I never planned this. We've actually worn that, and then we used the same hashtag on Instagram. We put same shirt Tuesday. Totally not planned.
We need to get into a same shirt marriage. 7:34. So anyway, yeah, they had a meeting yesterday at the Guam Ethics Commission, and Jess, if we could kind of unpack some of the takeaways from that meeting yesterday.
Absolutely. Yeah, the commission met yesterday for a pretty good meeting. There were a lot of things that were on the agenda to be discussed, and I can kind of start from the beginning. So first, the commission wanted to hear updates with the team as to how soon we are going to have our office open. We were able to see that GSA issued the purchase order to GCIC management on Wednesday. Right now, we're just waiting for management to come back to us with the term lease for us to sign and then proceed with moving in, hopefully on Monday. Come Monday, though, we're going to have to work on some other infrastructure needs. Ideally, we're going to need furniture, places for us to work and to sit, and then, getting the internet and the phone services connected so that individuals then have an outlet to call someone and talk to us about, some of the things that they have on their mind or maybe even their ethics complaint. But it is progress, and we're really excited that that has been achieved, and we're hoping that relatively soon we'll have an actual location, and would like to invite maybe the link wants to do link on location with us at our first office.
Wow.
And we can probably set something up, right?
I don't know,
Yeah.
because I think ethically you probably wouldn't be able to give us snacks or, where they go. No refreshments, guys. That's not ethical.
Chris, I think that as long as the snacks isn't just for you, if it's open and anyone can, reach for it,
Yeah.
What is more ethical on Guam and in Chamorro culture than offering somebody food?
It would
if
be
they're
unethical
visiting?
if you
Exactly.
didn't have it, right?
Yeah.
I'll bring you some of the empanada from Janet here at Santa Rita. I think you'll like that, unless you're more of a pastry guy, and then I'll bring you Pops.
No,
But if you're keto,
yeah.
I don't know if they have keto stuff at Pops Bakery.
Yeah, look at me, bro. I'm not keto. I'll take the empanada. Right on.
Okay.
So yeah,
After that,
that
yeah,
does sound
sorry.
good. Link on location, Jess. Let's arrange that offline. Okay, go ahead.
Great. And one of the other things that was assigned to me at the last meeting was for us to secure our legal services. And I'd like to just publicly announce now, we did publish a request for information on Tuesday on the paper. It'll be published again on Monday. And we're probably going to use that notices.guam.gov website to just share information. We're looking for any licensed attorney or firm who's interested in providing legal services to the Guam Ethics Commission to email us at ethics@dma.guam.gov and express their interest, and we'll provide more information about that. We're hoping that we can secure services come July, so it'll essentially meet up around the time that we plan to hear the first complaints and help walk us through those procedures. So again, if anyone or if you yourself are interested in just expressing that to the Ethics Commission, we'd love to hear from you. Primarily, we want to hear from groups who aren't already contracted with the government of Guam, because it'd be difficult to represent two different parties if maybe at a time they're conflicted with each other. But otherwise, reach out to our office so that we can hear from you and try to get that included as part of the proposals we're collecting.
So when you talked about being able to receive those first complaints, have we kind of nailed down what the actual process will be? for filing?
We
a
have.
complaint?
So the team's already done their part in preparing the policy and what that process will look like. So we presented that with the board yesterday. They had their first reading, and they're probably going to meet in 2 weeks' time for a special meeting to help facilitate that to the next step, which is approval. And a lot of this, of course, is being digested. You know, we try as best we can to capture as much as we can. But ideally, you know, we'd like to have something in place, at least in the interim. And really, we can't say for certain what type of complaints are going to come up or what that process will look like until we actually do receive them. So there is an expectation that some of this is going to be learned as we go. But if we have at least something in place and to go through that process and iron out any gaps that we identify, that would be ideal. So the commissioners have had the policy with them. We're hoping again to have a commission meeting for another reading, maybe in 2 weeks. And then maybe at that time, the commission can then decide and act on approving it, which will allow for us to then move forward. But Chris, you know, I do hear also from the commissioners, there are many of them who have advised me that they really want to hit the ground running with the training aspect, advising our community, particularly in the government of Guam, on the do's and don'ts. And they recognize that perhaps most of the complaints that will go through are because individuals simply don't know better or aren't aware. And we want to eliminate that from being an excuse after they've gone through some level of training and acknowledge that, hey, these are the standards that we hold government employees to. And we hope that you follow that. And if you don't, then the commission will have, you know, opportunity and the ground to decide if you did something wrong and what to do to correct it.
So for those people who would file complaints, what type of information would they be required to give of themselves?
Right. So the law provides that these individuals will need to give statements on who is accused, what was the circumstances, and what they believe they've violated. Granted, they wouldn't have to determine that all on their own. We're building within the policy mechanisms for the team to engage with these persons in our community to start that process from beginning to end. And part of that will be interviewing. You know, the team will have to sit down and collect the facts, put that on a form that's approved by the commission, and then have a second meeting to read through and allow them the opportunity to then decide, does this capture everything that you are trying to write in your complaint, or do we need to add more, etc.? And that will be the process from the side of the person filing the complaint. There's a different process after, which takes us to 2 types of hearings. You know, we expect that, like the Civil Service Commission, we'll have something that they call a status hearing. We're calling it a procedural hearing, and that's what we're proposing. This is where the commission will hear the facts initially, what was collected and what we're able to confirm or not confirm, and they would make the decision from there to decide, based on the information available, will they proceed with a full hearing where they get the merits and the defense from the accused, or is there no matter to be discussed and they dismiss it? So if it's dismissed, it's dismissed. It doesn't move beyond that. If after the procedural hearing, the commissioners believe that, well, there's probably something we don't quite understand yet, we want more information, or that they want the full hearing, they can vote to proceed to what we're describing as an administrative hearing. It will take 5 votes for the commissioners to move a case towards administrative hearing. This is already included in Guam law. And then at the administrative hearing is what you would typically expect in a court system, where the plaintiff will present the facts of the investigation, and of course the defendant or the accused will have the opportunity to respond to those accusations or questions or to clarify.
And I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be doing a lot of that clarification, right? But let me give you a hypothetical situation, right? So let's say you have Senator X, and Senator X has a family member who owns a company that is going to be impacted, maybe positively, by a piece of legislation that Senator X is actively participating in the debate on. I guess just ethically, what type of issues would you have with something like that?
So one of the things I imagine we're going to have to explore is currently in statute Title 4, Chapter 15, it spells out the code of conduct for public officials. And it would be really having to identify if any of those code of conducts have been violated based on their action. But I'm thankful that I'm not the decision maker
Right,
in
right,
that
right.
regard.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the
yeah.
commissioners.
Of course.
We'll hear the case. My role really is to facilitate obtaining that complaint, putting it on paper, and presenting it to the board for them to decide. And if we do a good job in collecting all the facts as much as we can, as best we can, then I believe that the commissioners will have an easier time deciding a question like yours,
Right.
if there is something that is wrong or isn't wrong.
Yeah. You know, one thing I find interesting, Jess, is when we apply kind of these like stateside familial relation metrics to Guam families, right? And I saw this because I covered the Chamorro Land Trust, the whole scandal up at Barragata Heights, and they basically came out with there's something in the law that the AG's legal counsel assigned to the Chamorro Land Trust was saying, talking about so many degrees of consanguinity, but that doesn't even begin to cover the relationships that we have on Guam, which sometimes, I mean, a lot of times aren't even through blood, right? So how do you guys?
I think, right.
How do you kind of address
Relationships.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Chris. It will be interesting. I believe the law does spell out for us what is defined as an immediate relationship with an individual, and that being their spouse, their parent, or their child. Outside of that, somehow the law doesn't capture that class of individuals. So if that's my first cousin, or if that's my auntie, or if that's my granddaughter, those levels of relationship aren't defined in Guam law, at least to my understanding. Right. Immediate family is simply those that are who gave birth to you, who were born with you, and who you gave birth to, and doesn't capture beyond that.
Doesn't capture parties for sure.
But I mean, policymakers, you have them on the show. I mean, these are things that are gaps that need to be addressed. And those are great suggestions.
Yeah, but then we run into this issue where you guys as a body, the Guam Ethics Commission, have to decide whether or not something is ethical or unethical, but you're using and applying this. Clearly, it's a square trying to fit into our Guam relationship circle. You know what I mean? So how can we address these ethical issues, which a lot of times aren't necessarily what's legal and what's not, because, right, that's a whole different discussion. What's legal, what's not, what's ethical and unethical. Sometimes things that are unethical could be legal.
And well, Chris, there's also instances that you don't have to be related to someone, but still commit a violation,
right.
Ethical violation.
Yeah.
I think if there is favor that is curried, that you personally have the authority to give, and you do give to someone that you know or somehow will support you back, there's reciprocity or expectation for reciprocity, then that will be a violation. So absent the definition of anyone's family beyond their immediate, I think there is still ground to find if there is cause, and how do we investigate that. So it's just about getting those complaints in. I think going back to our original point, when we do have the commissioners comfortable and agreeing to open up this process, that will allow for myself and the rest of the team to go out and gather that information, present the best case, and hopefully for the benefit of the community as well, they'll get to hear the background and what we're able to paint as far as the clearest picture. And then they will decide whether or not they agree with the decision of the commission or not with what they vote on.
Right. Wow, this is it's gonna be fun.
It will be. And, I went back to the law to find out if in the event there is a conviction, what is the recourse of the commission? Is it that we impose a fine? How do we address certain issues? So the law really offers three solutions to a conviction. First, if it's a criminal conviction, then we would forward that to the Attorney General's office and they would handle that from there. If we're dealing with an issue for a terminated or separated employee, which is an individual who was accused, was an employee, but no longer with the government, the commission really only has the opportunity to write and publicly express their opinion that this individual committed the action, which is a violation of the Code of Ethics. If the individual is an employee, then the only recourse that the commission has beyond a conviction is to put the case file together, write the conviction narrative, and then to send that to the agency that they're employed with. So really the ownership and the responsibility after the conviction is with management and with those respective agencies to take it beyond the commission itself. We're simply here to help discover facts and come up with an opinion whether or not there was a violation. And after that, we hope that these other entities that have responsibility will go further once there is a conviction.
What would the jurisdiction be? For example, let me just give you another hypothetical. What if someone who, or what if someone had filed a complaint and basically just copy pasted all the information that is working its way through Congress with, for example, the congressman, right, who's currently under a House ethics investigation. So if someone was to just copy paste that, and when you guys are accepting complaints, like give it over to you guys, would that be under your jurisdiction, or because he's a member of Congress, is it kind of out of your lane? I don't know.
For that case, it would count because they are an elected official for the government of Guam. They are running in a federal election. So we can at least conduct the process of discovering facts and putting a case together and writing a narrative and ultimately coming out with the decision if the commissioners in place and the board right now agree that there was a violation or disagree and dismiss the case. What happens after that, I think, Chris, is the real question. Is once the commission makes a decision, whatever decision that be, we just release that to the public, and it's up to those responsible to then act on it following the decision by the commission.
We had a comment here, and you kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. Are the do's and don'ts given to employees during orientation? Yeah, so what type of ethics training do these government employees already receive? Because I know you had said that you didn't want it to be where someone files a complaint and then the response was, oh, I didn't know that's against the law.
To the first question about where they would receive this information, typically in orientation, new employees to the government would be informed about the personnel rules and regulations. And this, of course, is the Bible, things that you're allowed to do. It gives you benefits like, what's the holiday pay, what is annual leave, what is sick leave, and the process for increments thereafter. One of the first chapters, I believe is chapter 3, talks about code of conduct, and it spells more than 10 specific items that employees shall and employees shall not behave in certain ways. And so for us, do employees know? Ideally, we'd like to believe that yes, it is in your packet, and you can always visit your human resources department to say, can I have a copy of the personnel rules and regulations? This is the same document that is used with Civil Service Commission. Whenever there are adverse actions that are filed, they reference that to see if they follow the procedure. And I would encourage employees who are unaware, maybe they want to revisit that and just read really quickly. It's just 10 sentences or a few more about what is their expectation. Beyond that, the training will involve 10 specific topics, but it doesn't prohibit us from expounding on the 10. We just have to answer the 10. And there is an expectation on our side that we will talk about the code of conduct for public officials and for employees, the do's and the don'ts, to help better understand what is acceptable behavior and what's not acceptable behavior.
Right on. Tess comments in, is there a statute of limitations for complaints?
There is, that we are aware of. The current law states that complaints have to be filed within a 3-year period. And what we need to define right now is when the clock starts and when it stops. If an employee separates from the government, I believe that then the 3-year period starts. But I would need to go back to the law and get that reviewed with legal to find out if that in fact is a correct interpretation. But we know that somewhere in our statute, it does state 3 years.
But you don't have a lawyer yet.
Which one, Chris?
You don't have a lawyer yet to review that, right?
We are working on it.
Right.
Currently, we do have the resources of the Attorney General's office. They
Okay.
provide the legal services to the government, but purely because we want to have the ability to remain independent, we've gone out and searched for our own lawyer to avoid the conflict.
So, I mean, is that is kind of interesting. Is it 3 years from an alleged offense or just 3 years from when they exit? So let's say, for example, you have a government employee who retired in 2021, but there's an offense that someone submitted a complaint about that occurred in like 2010. What would just be your read on
We'll
that?
have to explore that.
Right.
Yeah, if that's considered jurisdiction for the commission or not, and we'll have an answer for sure by the time that the process opens and complaints are going to be heard. For us on the staff level, we need to understand how to advise persons that are coming in before they get involved and engaged in the entire process, that these are what we know will count, what we can move forward with. And if there are cases that we can move forward with, we can advise them, and then ultimately it'll be their decision whether to proceed or not.
Anonymous complaints, can they be submitted?
That's a challenging question. It's difficult to answer because there is a stipulation in Guam law that states that complaints have to be affirmed to their correctness. And so Guam law does provide that if any of this is untrue, if persons are just filing frivolous complaints, that we can actually go and fine them for entering false information.
Wow. That's very interesting because we just saw that recently with the legislature. There was a complaint that was circulated that they absolutely could not verify in any way, shape, or form, but the media got the complaint and reported on it, and it ended up being fake. So that's pretty, pretty interesting, right?
It
was relative to Senator Tello, I believe.
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah.
And we wind up dealing with this all the time because people will create, like burner or ghost like Gmail accounts, and then they'll send, send a whole bunch of, news tips, air quotes, like, to us, and it's basically like a form of trench warfare that people have. I'm not saying all of them are like that. I mean, we do get obviously like a fair number of very legitimate news, but that is a tactic that you'll see, especially like around election time. People will use that as a form of
the
mudslinging.
trolling. Yeah. We had another comment here. Marcy comments in, good morning. Ethics code laws are well established and should be enforced and not reinvented.
Yeah, is your commission,
Is that
Jesse,
a
like
question?
is it
I don't know if that's a question.
is it like something that is ever evolving or is ethics basically like a
No, but Marcy,
standard?
I mean, just going off our conversation, we only got a couple minutes left. We were just talking about what the law says about relationships on Guam. So it only covers immediate family, which is, again, Jess, mother, father,
Your parent, your sibling, and
brother, sister.
and those you give birth to. Yeah.
Right. Does not count for brother-in-law, sister-in-law, son-in-law, daughter-in-law.
It does. It does for
okay.
the in-laws, but
Okay.
for beyond that, if that's your cousin, your auntie,
Right.
or your grandchild, right, your child's child, I don't know if it covers those degrees. But you piqued my interest, and now I want to go
Yeah.
back and explore. What is the language behind that?
Yeah, that's
It's worth understanding.
good. So you got some homework, and we'll come back maybe next week or something.
Well, Jesse's
thanks,
always been a
Chris.
very, very
Yeah.
good. Jesse's always been a very, very good student.
I
We
know,
that,
right?
so.
Yeah, he's gonna come back with extra answers. All right, Jess. Hey, we got to run.
And with empanada, he promised.
Yep, with Santa Rita empanada.
At my office, I didn't know if I had to travel that far to Harmon from Agate.
No, we'll
but
come. We'll come.
we'll come
to you,
back
man.
to Agate.
Yeah,
We'll be
we'll come
cool.
to you. We want it hot. Jess, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you, Chris.
That's
Thank you,
fast.
Jason, and thanks to your viewers for the opportunity to
Right on.
share this information.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend, Jesse.
Take it
Always
easy.
good to see you.
Jess Kanga, the executive director of the Guam Ethics Commission. Yeah, good stuff. Good
There's
stuff.
A lot of stuff.
There's
too.
just so many ethical questions that haven't been answered by a body like that. You know what I mean?
That was a fair question to ask from the viewer. You said that was Marcy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so and it's like, okay, well, ethics were kind of set, maybe 200 years ago and by the founding fathers, if you want to go like maybe even before that, but should that change over time?
Yeah. I mean, it should. Well, I'm just curious. There are things that we see all kinds of ethical violations on the daily. Like you have, senators will participate in discussions on bills that, may benefit their in-laws' companies. That just happened pretty recently. And,
I mean,
and
some
no